Okay, and can you just give me a little update? What has been going on? How did your season go? Just give me a little update.
Season was good, really stressful, but it was good. I got in state, I got first on vault, um, with a 9.7. So that was fun.
Oh,
Then I've just been training six basically all summer. I'm really close to my back handspring on beam. We have like this like almost we call it sausage, but it's like a little thing on the beam that makes it like 2 inches wider. And we put it on like the crank beam and we just make it as high as we want. So I have my back handspring on that. I just need to do it on like an actual beam now. And then I'd say this summer probably bars has been the most hardest because like cast angles, like for six you need cast handstand, clipped handstand, and then cast handstand layout flyaway. So my cast handstand's pretty close. My clipped handstand definitely still needs work, but I mean it's about 45, I'm pretty sure.
okay. Okay, now you and I have seen each other before, but we haven't seen each other in a long time. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a review. Remember the doing strategy, the learning strategy, and A circle?
Mm-hmm.
And I may have talked to you about goal beyond the goal. Do you remember that strategy as well?
Yeah.
So the doing strategy is basically when you can just kick your mind out of your way and let your body do what it knows it can do. And there's nothing negative in your A circle affecting you. That's basically the doing strategy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the learning strategy is thinking about what you're doing as you're doing it. Or it could be feeling your way through your skills or seeing your way through them, talking your way through them, thinking your way through them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then A circle, whatever is in your A circle is what's controlling you or what's making decisions for you in that situation. B circle are people or things that support you to make a decision, or they can influence your decisions, but they're not making it for you. And like the cat is in my A circle right now. And C circle is everything else outside of that or everything else that doesn't matter. Now, with what you've got going on, you're training your 6 skills. Let's break it down a little bit. So for beam, we're talking about your back handspring. And for beam, do you like to feel your way through your skills, see your way through them, talk your way through them, think your way through them, or some kind of combination?
Probably talk through them.
Okay. Now, for your back handspring, you're comfortable doing it on the sausage.
Mm-hmm.
And the sausage, that's on a high beam, right? Sausage?
It's like a beam that you can make high or kind of like a low beam.
Okay. And when you're doing your back handspring where you're comfortable, are you just doing the doing strategy? Are you thinking about it as you're doing it? What strategy is working best for you?
Mainly just kind of like doing it.
Okay. And then where does doing the back handspring become a problem for you?
Probably when I start thinking about the fact if my hands are gonna go on or not.
Okay.
Cool, because then I start like doubting myself.
Yeah. And does it make sense then that thought gets in your A circle?
Yeah.
And does it make sense then that thought's controlling you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, it's a valid thought. I don't want you to not get your hands on the beam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on kind of the front end of it, I want you to be able to, when you have any thought that comes into your A circle, I want you to be able to acknowledge it. You know, it's like, okay, thank you for that reminder. I know I just need to focus on how I want to put my hands on the beam. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but on the other side of it, I want you to also be able to, sometimes our mind and our body can get disconnected, and then all kinds of things can get between our mind and our body. And we want to be able to go back to where that first started. So if you were to know the root cause of this idea or thought about your hands on the beam, when did it first start? When did you first pick it up?
Probably with my back walkover, because when I was first learning my back walkover, my hands were struggling to get on. And then I had my back handspring, but I broke my finger doing it. So kind of created a little bit of a mental block. And because my hands didn't get on, that's how I broke my finger.
Okay. And Isla, do you like to do your skills perfectly like right now?
Yeah.
Like you like to do, yeah. And so I want you to remember that I know these things might be a problem for you, but you're not the problem. You know what I mean? I know you're trying to do your skills and you want to do them. And I also want you to remember to give yourself permission to not be perfect so that over time you can do exactly what you want to do. Okay? You're exactly where you need to be. And we want you to be able to be accepting of where you're at so that you can keep learning, keep practicing your strategies, okay? Now, when you were first learning your back walkover back then, what do you know now about that situation that you did not know back then? What can we learn from that?
That no matter what, probably my brain won't really let my hands like completely go off.
Yeah, that's true, right? And back then, does it make sense that you didn't know did you know the learning strategy back then?
No.
Okay, if you would have known the doing strategy, the learning strategy in a circle back then, do you see how that may have been helpful?
Yeah.
What could you have used back then that would have been helpful for you for your back walkover when you were learning that?
Probably just like the doing strategy, because I would constantly kind of put it off, and then that created a lot of struggle for season.
Oh, I see. So back then, what was in your A circle affecting you negatively?
My mind.
Okay. And does it make sense that you didn't know that, like, basically, if we don't give our mind a job to do, it'll create its own job, right? And it won't be helpful. What could you have had in your A circle, or what could you have been thinking about when you were doing your back walkover back then?
Probably could have been thinking about being like when I was first learning it, probably being a little bit more like squared, because when I was thinking too much about my hands, I wasn't thinking about the fact of being squared, and then I'd constantly like go off and dump it to the side.
For sure. You didn't even know you could think about your skill. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when you are doing the learning strategy, do you see how that would have been different for you with your back walkover?
Yeah.
And do you see how you could have practiced it that way? Now, was there anything after that that got in your A circle negatively affecting you?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. And then do you see how that situation would have been different?
Yeah.
And then for your back handspring, Isla, for you, you kind of explained your back walkover, and then the back handspring kind of got piggybacked onto that situation. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
So with your back handspring, with what you know now, what can we learn from your back handspring? What do you know now about your back handspring that you did not know back then? What can we learn from that?
I know that focusing more on, I used to try to get my hands kind of like this, which you can't do because then they slip off. So I know now that I kind of have to get my hands like that. And like, no matter, like, it's not going to help if I constantly just go like this to like get my hands on the beam. So I have to like actually like move my hands. So it's kind of be like, oh, why aren't they going back immediately?
Well, exactly. Just thinking about what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing your back handspring, what do you want to be focusing on as you're doing your back handspring one step at a time?
Probably first getting my head in because my head's out a lot, then focusing on my hands, then like my legs, making sure they're straight, making sure my toes pointed, and then the landing.
And Isla, can you practice it that way where you're comfortable?
Yeah.
And now with your back handspring, and remember to step back and look at it like a video so you're not in the experience, so we can learn about it. For your back handspring, can you give me a situation in the past where maybe something didn't go the way you wanted it to? And it could have been like yesterday, or it could have been a long time ago.
In the beginning of the summer, like all like the whole practice, I wouldn't be like making any progress because my hands would just be constantly going to like the side.
Okay. Okay, and I'm sorry about that because that's no fun and that's not what you wanted to do. Right? And back then, were you just doing the doing strategy? Were you thinking about what you were doing? What was happening for you in that situation?
I wasn't really thinking about it. I was kind of just like doing it because my coaches were telling me to. And I would most of the time put it off like most practice because I was annoyed with myself that my hands weren't going on.
And do you see how then that was also in your A circle? And do you see how that was not helpful?
Yeah.
Because remember, whatever is in our A circle is what's controlling us. But now, when you think back to that, what could you have done back then that may have been helpful for you, just with what we've talked about today?
Probably could have not really thought about it a lot because the fact that I was thinking about it like too much and then I wasn't thinking about it enough. So kind of just like finding the right ground for my thoughts doing it.
Yeah, and do you see how if you could have focused on thinking of when you do your back handspring, what do you want to be focusing on to do it the way you want to do it?
Probably focusing like more on the landing because when I focus too much on my hands, that's when I start getting nervous about them.
Yeah, and when you're not missing your hands, what do you want to be focusing on?
Um, Probably making sure I have a good form so that way I can get high scores in season.
And can you practice it that way?
Yeah.
Now, do you see how that situation would have been different back then, earlier in the summer? Is there anything else in your A circle back then that was affecting you negatively?
I don't think so.
Okay. And can you practice that on the sausage beam?
Yeah.
Okay. And because I don't want you to do something you're not comfortable to do. I want you to practice the strategy where you're comfortable, and then you can go from there as you feel comfortable. Does that feel okay to you?
Yep.
Okay. How is bars?
Um, Bars is okay. It could be better, but it's okay because it's really just my cast angles and then the clear hip angle.
Yep. Okay. And for bars, do you like to feel your way through your skills, see your way through them, talk your way through them, think your way through them, or a combination?
Probably a combination of thinking through them and feeling through them.
Okay. So as you're coming out of your first kip, what do you want to be focusing on to go into your handstand?
Probably the shoulders and actually making it to handstand.
And when you're making it to handstand, what do you want to be focusing on?
Being tight.
And it's not a bad thing to want to make it to handstand, Isla. You know what I mean? It's like I want you to want to make it all your handstands to handstand. So does it make sense that when you're trying to make it to handstand, that sometimes then you're not in your body doing what you need to do to go to handstand?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Making your handstand is what I call a goal beyond the goal. Yes, I want you to make it to your handstands. Yes, I want you to be able to do that every time. But that's what I call a goal beyond the goal. That doesn't belong in your A circle when you're actually doing your skill and your handstand. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, yes, I want to make it to handstand. Okay, great. But what do I need to focus on to practice so I can practice getting to handstand?
Yeah.
And then handstand into your clear hip. What do you want to focus on coming down into your clear hip to then do it the way you want to?
Probably like dropping it while keeping my head in and then shooting up to get to handstand.
And I think,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
To almost like start trying to go up too early. So instead of like going like here, I go like there and then I like do an underswing.
Yeah, and this is a great time to give yourself permission to not be perfect so that you can adjust as you go. I think you're hard on yourself, and then when it's not right, you leave your body.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
But this is you're exactly where you need to be. I don't want you to think that you need to be doing things, better, but because I don't want you to be upset at yourself in your A circle, because then that's controlling you. I mean, it doesn't mean that if something's not going the way you want it to, that it's not a problem for you, I don't expect you to be excited if you can't do what you know you can do. But I want you to be able to give yourself permission to not be perfect so that you can practice moving toward what you want to do over time. So by competition season, you'll know what to think about as you're doing it the way you want to. Okay. Is there anything in your A circle for bars negatively affecting you that we haven't talked about?
Probably the high bar. I don't know why. I feel like high bar is really scary because like sometimes like especially when like you're on high bar, the bar likes to like move. So it's like,
well, and Isla, that's a valid thought. Like, I want you to be able to manage yourself on the high bar. That's a valid thought and basically what happens is, do you see how that fear or those thoughts are in your A circle because they want you to pay attention to what you're doing?
Yeah.
If you were to know the root cause of this fear or the idea of it being scary in your A circle, when did that first start? When did you first pick that up?
Probably like last year when we started doing baby giants, because like you have to cast away all the way down and then come back up. It's like scary because like the bar likes to move. Not only that, but like you're so high up that like if you're like in handstand and like you fall backwards, you have to like bridge, you have to do a pirouette, but then you have to wait so long to actually land.
Well, back then, now when you look back at that situation, what do you know now about that you did not know back then? What can we learn from that?
Probably that the bar is not going to collapse when you do a baby giant because it's like such a small skill.
Yeah, and it's on there pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And what back then, what could you have been thinking about, or what could you have been focusing on that may have been helpful for you in that situation?
Probably could have been focusing a lot on my angles because I've always kind of struggled with high bar. So like last year, I got taken away a lot on my speed and my angles because it'd be like I'd be scared. So then it'd be like this big, like this would be the cast angle, and then I tried to go under, but then I'd like almost like flip down and I'd be in like this position. Then I'd go up, and it was a very slow high bar. I did not get very good by scores last season, but I got first at 1 meet, so I must have did something kind of right.
Well, absolutely. And again, if you had some scared energy in your A circle, that was valid, but you didn't know that you didn't know that there was a reason for that to be in your A circle. It was just there to remind you to pay attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you see how the learning strategy would have been helpful for you back then?
Yeah.
And again, this is a practicing strategy. I want you to give yourself permission to not be perfect. If you have some things that pop into your A circle, I just want you to be able to acknowledge them and go, okay, thank you for that reminder. I just need to focus on what I'm doing and practice that where you're comfortable, and then you can go from there.
Okay.
Does that feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how is floor this summer?
Really good. I have all my skills. They're pretty good.
So for floor, when you do your floor skills, do you like to feel your way through your skills, see your way through them, talk your way through them, think your way through them, or some kind of combination?
Probably another think and feel.
Okay, when you're thinking and feeling your way through floor, do you see how that's giving your mind a job to support your body?
Yeah.
And do you see how you can use that strategy more often?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how you can use that also for bars?
Yeah.
And for beam? Okay. And does it make sense for floor that your mind is not in your A circle?
Yeah.
Does it make sense that your body is in your A circle?
Yeah.
Is your mind supporting your body in your B circle, or is it nowhere to be found for floor?
Probably in my B circle, yeah.
Okay, and thinking and feeling your way through, does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And that's really good for you to know, Isla, because it's great to know what's working for you, because then if something isn't working, you can go, okay, maybe I can try thinking and feeling my way through. Right? Sometimes our mind gets in our A circle and that can kick us out of our body. But knowing that you can, what it feels like and what you're thinking about for floor, then you can use that for other situations and other events.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you comfortable with where you're at with floor?
Yeah.
Okay. How is vault?
Really good too. I'm like a powerhouse. So those are my best two events.
And for you, for vault, do you like to feel your way through, see your way through, talk your way through, think your way through, some kind of combination?
See my way through.
Oh, see for vault?
Mhm.
When you're doing your round off for your vault, what are you seeing?
My hands, and then I can't really see the springboard because I'm not gonna go like that, but like I feel the springboard, and then looking at my hands and seeing that they actually got onto the ball table is a little bit of like almost like a reassurance because like you're like, I did it.
Absolutely. And do you see how that strategy is keeping your mind connected to your body as you're doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you see how you can use that strategy more often?
Yeah.
How have your coaches been? Have your coaches been in your A circle negatively affecting you at all, or anything else that we want to make sure we're talking through for today?
My coaches are kind of more in like my B circle, kind of like not like forcing any decisions because they can't really force anything. So they're definitely like guiding a positive like guide almost.
Okay, good for you. So I feel like your coaches are in your B circle, and sometimes you maybe bring them in your A circle as well
Yeah.
to support you.
Mhm.
Great. Now let's go back to your back handspring. When you go into the gym tomorrow, when you go to with your back handspring, what do you want to be focusing on as you're practicing your back handspring? With what we talked about today, what do you want to be using for tomorrow?
Probably more of just like the doing strategy because I overthink almost everything. So if I just kind of like do it, get it out of my head, know that my hands are gonna get on, then just go to high beam and whatever. Just like get it done and over with almost.
Yeah, and with what we did today, I love what will happen is you may have those thoughts come back into your A circle. But I just want you to acknowledge them. Yes, I want to put my hands on the bead. Thank you for that reminder. So that you can practice focusing on what you need to do it the way you want to, and practice that where you're comfortable, and then go from there. Okay. And then do you remember goal beyond the goal?
Yeah.
I talked to you a little bit about that. So goal beyond the goal is great, like competition season or needing to do your skill. Those are all what I call a goal beyond the goal. Okay, so if you want to do your back handspring for competition season, that's great. That's what I call a goal beyond the goal. It just doesn't belong in your A circle when you're doing your back handspring.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like, yes, I need to compete it. It's kind of like if my daughter's coaches say to her, Livy, if you don't do your series right now 5 times, you're not going to compete tomorrow. That may not be helpful in her A circle when she's got to do her series.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's like, thank you. Yes, I want to do my series, but okay, now I can put that out of my A circle so I can focus on what I need to do to move toward what they're asking of me. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, competing your back handspring is a goal beyond the goal. So then you can think about, what do I need to focus on right now to move me toward that?
Yeah.
And that can keep you in your body and focus on one thing at a time too.
Yeah.
Okay. So remember to give yourself permission to not be perfect. Okay, practice your strategies. And then if you need anything, just text me anytime, okay?
Okay.
Okay, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
All right, you have a good night.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.